Welcome to Exchange on negotiations. Life is full of the unexpected. What do you do if you suddenly find yourself in a situation that is beyond your control? Do you give up? Or do you try to negotiate and find a solution? If it's the latter, you'll enjoy meeting our guest, Giovanni Esposito. As a boy, he loved looking at the airplanes and spending summers with his father on international assignments worldwide. No wonder Giovanni started his own career at the Italy Air Force and spent the next 30 years working on or with airlines. He even helped starting up 2 of them. In his free time, he likes to venture out on his Vespa and to play tennis that he considers to be similar to negotiations. Same game, just played on different courts. His credo is, do not come to people with problems, come with the solutions. Here are some examples. Welcome, Jenny. Since we know each other for some time, I know you had some incredible stories in your career. Can you share one when you were faced with an unexpected situation and had to negotiate your way out?
So when I was dispatcher in the primary airlines, one of my duty and activities was to prepare the briefing information with all the routes analysis, the fuel information, and present all those information to the pilots. The event that I want to share with you was a night shift on which I was involved, and it was literally 15 days after my hiring. So during the night shift, there were only 2 people on duty, myself and an oldest dispatcher, and we received a notice by phone call by the custom saying, hey, you are informed about the fact that there will be a strike, unexpected, that will start now for the next 48 hours or so. The reality was that there were no fuel pump, meaning that there were no availability of any fuel storage at the airport in Fiumicino for the next 2 days. Myself and my colleague, we were literally looking at each other and say, how can we manage it? Our main focus, it was not on the normal custom activities like passport control or crew control at the gate or similar stuff. We were just thinking about fuel pumping, aircraft, how to dispatch the aircraft, because this was our main activities. The secret was our attitude, let me say, to propose something in exchange. It was putting emphasis on their strike, otherwise nobody were knowing that there were a strike in Italy. It was reporting to everybody in the air, to the crews, to the captains, to the air traffic controllers, to everybody that we are in touch during this period, that even if there is a strike from our customer representative, we are able to manage the things thanks to them.
Incredible! So what happened then?
We were negotiating with a custom representative to do not make any other outage in the custom check rather than the fuel and the fuel pump. So all the pilots that were landing at Fiumicino that were supposed to be affected by the custom passport check, they were not affected because we were in agreement with them.
That airline is a workflow. So if one part of that workflow stops working, what can you do?
We said, guys, why don't we take the car which is parked here outside, go into the airfield in the tarmac, and with a pencil and a piece of paper, we will go on board and we will see exactly which is the fuel amount per aircraft parked. And then we will see where, with this aircraft, we can go to make enough fuel. So in this way, in almost half an hour from the notice, we were able to inform the coordinator in the airport that we had at that time, if I remember well, around 10 aircraft parked. Those 10 aircraft can fly only to a certain destination and carry on all their normal activities without any shortage. From that moment on, we were able to also inform all the outstations that any flight that are inbound to Fiumicino Airport must carry on a minimum fuel at landing. It was literally a precedent that has been used by the airline from that moment on. One situation happened in my life when I was almost around 20, so very young, and there were a winter season here in Rome, and there were a heavy snow. It was one of the most heavy snow that I ever seen in Italy, where practically there were during the night something around probably 25 inches of snow on the airport, and all the runways were shut down and closed. So the airport went closed because of snow, and there were no truck in the airport to enable the runway to be cleaned by the snow. No possibility, no other than waiting for something coming from another place, another airport nearby, coming with the snow truck and clean the runway. No other way. There were a guy that were thinking really, really positive. And the solution were come fast. Keep an aircraft, 4-engine aircraft, and truck and dock the aircraft at the head of the runway and push back the aircraft with the engine on backwards down to the end of the runway. With the air made by the engines, they were cleaning the runway by the depth.
That's a hell of a creative solution, pardon my French. So, what was the management reaction to that?
The initial reaction of almost everybody say, it doesn't work. How do you want to push back an aircraft from A to B if there is snow on the field? The point is, and it was technically discussed, you do not have any problem in moving backward the aircraft using the tractor on the ground, because there is no problem at all, because it's the dynamic pushback on a heavy aircraft, making this simply. Even on the snow, doesn't make any difference.
So everybody just said, yeah, great, go for it, Gianni.
You know that the airport authority were reluctant to first take an aircraft, ask the airline to provide you the aircraft, the fuel amount required to push back the aircraft, and so on. There were some negotiation to be made with the aircraft, with the airport authority, with the handling agent to push it back and to do all this.
And how did you convince all the parties?
We were giving a technical solution, the cost associated, and the time frame required, and making the comparison on what will be the current solution in place, and show them how faster, quicker, and safer this will be. First, the aircraft were able to take off immediately after. Second, all the runway were opened, and the airport were able to reopen the activities in the airport smoothly and quickly, rather than stay closed down for all the time, with a lot of troubleshooting with the passengers, with the other situation that may happen. And instead, in 30 minutes, the airport were open again.
30 minutes?
The airfield were cleaned in less than 20 minutes, simply using a jet.
Impressive. So what did you learn from that experience?
Sometimes you have to think out of the box. There are several situations where everything is, especially in this period of time, everything is within the boxes. You have a problem and you have a solution, or even two solutions, and so on. Sometimes look out of the box, because not everything is expected, and the best solution sometimes is something unexpected, and it's much more easier than what you are really thinking right now. There is another situation where I was in the recent past making negotiation in a very hard and difficulties times to sell a product. And the situation was the following. After almost years of discussions with a customer, the product selected has no problem, no technical issue, no commercial problems, but the difficulties comes from legal, where the company that I'm working for has their own general terms and conditions that must be applied. And on the other side, there is a customer that doesn't like those terms and conditions. To explain in practice what's happened was that we have a list of something around, if I remember well, 100 of items to be discussed, almost a couple per article in the general terms and conditions. And the approach was, instead of exchanging my view, answering to your post and so on, can we sit down all together and go across one by one to find out a solution for all? So once we approach that way, immediately after the first cleanup on Article 1, 2 points or 3 points, then I said, okay, shall I propose you something? Can I do the same for the article that we just did on the opposite side? And they were a little bit surprised, and they said, what do you mean by that? Let me keep your position, and you will keep my position instead, for the same article with a different perspective. Let's go and let's look at these changes in an opposite direction. Shall we try? And I said, oh, yes, why not? Let's try. At the end of these 10 minutes after, I was keeping themselves to the previous position, accepting my original general terms and condition articles. And I said, you see, now we have solved it out, but this come back to the original Article 1. We made these numbers of changes into this article, but at the end is exactly what it was at the beginning, with the very light changes, which was only this word. Can we approach the same for the rest of the article? Starting from the beginning and see why we are discussing A, then B, then C, and then all the rest. Let's have a different approach. And the approach was starting from the opposite view of the same article. In that way, we were going faster rather than the initial point. And in less than 2 hours, we solved out all the 14 articles in the terms. Sorted out all. 2 hours instead of months.
That's a very interesting approach. So what did that experience teach you?
So one point that you shall think about is that once you are in a stuck situation and you do not see any way out, a way to go out from the situation is to think about and start to be on the other side. Instead of keeping your point, try to be on the other side of the table and respond to your same question.
My last question. What advice would you give to somebody who is faced with an unexpected turn in negotiations?
There are always situations that you are in front and unexpected. You shall always think about your past experience to share with the audience that you have in front of you during the negotiation, and you have to take advantage of it.
I teach my kids that there's always a solution to any problem. Just use your imagination and think out of the box to find it. Thanks for sharing your experience, Giovanni.